fascinating story about a truly remarkable phenomenon, the one commonly known as the punctuality syndrome. What exactly does this phenomenon reveal? Вот твой текст в 100% исходном виде, без единого изменения. A fascinating story about a truly remarkable phenomenon, the one commonly known as the punctuality syndrome. What exactly does this phenomenon reveal? People who suffer from this condition almost always live in fear of being late. Any event they face, or simply the time noted on a piece of paper, seems to cause a certain confusion in their perception of time and space. It might be a visit to the sauna, an exam, a quick trip to the store after lunch, or a peaceful morning walk. In all these cases, this curious condition known as the punctual idiot syndrome shows itself clearly. Honestly, watching this unfold is like observing an entertaining play. People appear to be fighting against time, even though time waits patiently for everyone. I first noticed this during exams at school and university. Students often arrived just a few minutes before the set time. They were terrified of being late. Panic was written all over their faces, as if the universe might collapse over a matter of minutes. Then came the so-called punctual ones, arriving precisely at the appointed hour. Naturally, everyone crowded in front of the lecture hall, creating unnecessary nervous tension. Some, sleep-deprived and even having forgotten breakfast due to rushing, stood there and waited. They would keep waiting, since the exam had not yet begun. Lastly, those who arrived slightly late, about 10 minutes after the scheduled time, but even that didn't save them from waiting. Everyone knew that only the first 5 examinees could enter the hall immediately. After that, the tedious phase of waiting followed, until those who had passed or failed left the room. Altogether, these punctual souls spent the entire morning in meaningless waiting. They might as well have come 60 minutes later. Of course, nothing would have changed. The exam would still have been taken on time, as normally 3 to 4 hours were allotted, typically from 8 until 1. Those who arrived were considered heroes, and there was truly no need to stress so much. Knowing this system, I slept peacefully until 9 in the morning, although the exam started at 8. And guess what? Around 10 o'clock, I showed up fresh and headache-free after breakfast at the university, and in front of the lecture hall still stood the so-called first arrivals. They had not yet entered the exam. I smiled to myself. Well, folks, you're stuck in time, and I'm free. Of course, I had exactly the same chances to pass or fail as these punctual idiots, but I was in no rush, and the events meant just as much to me. I simply did not rush and behaved calmly. Years later, I noticed the same phenomenon at airports during check-in and boarding. And what did I find? About 45% of people suffer from this punctual idiot syndrome. Boarding was scheduled for 3 p.m., the flight would take off at 5, and the plane wasn't going anywhere. Taking into account traffic conditions and the unpleasantness of arriving late, I also acted reasonably and arrived at the plane on time. This, after all, was definitely not an exam, and there was no need to sleep until the very last minute. So, I found my check-in counter. And what happened? The crowd of punctual people was tearing the line apart. Check-in would last about an hour, but it was a battle like that of bulls, and the walkway was full of suitcases. Well, the counter was found. Now one could leave, no need to stand or stare at the person in front. One could stroll through the airport, have a drink or a snack. I watched this chaos with a slight frown, thinking, they create stress for themselves while the plane patiently waits. Then, without hurry, I went to the check-in counter, and, surprise, I still had a full 20 minutes and was checked in, although I only waited 5 minutes in line. Boarding was then announced. The same scenario as at the stadium. Everyone was rushing, a fight for who would board first. People with strollers, children crying, documents dropping from hands, but no one stepping back. Everyone clinging tightly. They push. Something falls from a hand due to excitement. They fear missing the boarding, even though the flight wouldn't start for another hour. This group's behavior was always the same. Standing close together, literally blocking the way, annoying others, and not letting anyone pass. I looked at the clock. Exactly 60 minutes until departure. While half the crowd was tearing itself apart, I went for a walk, bought a newspaper, visited the restroom, not because I had to, but simply because I had nothing better to do and the time was endless. On the plane, the restroom was unpleasant and cramped, no tiled floor, everything was tight, but one could sit without shaking the plane, read the newspaper, wash hands, and make faces in the big mirror. Yes, civilization is a strange thing, I thought. About 15 minutes before boarding ended, I went to passport control, and wonder of wonders, no one was there. I calmly passed through the control and down the aisle into the plane, where everyone sat like owls, squeezed in fear for an hour already, hot and suffocating, but 95% had already fastened their seatbelts, afraid to miss the flight, all seated. They were uncomfortable, unsure of what to do, still having to fly for 4 hours, yet sitting for an hour already on the plane, going crazy. I calmly walked to my seat, and there it was, the miracle. While I was deciding how comfortably to sit, the stewardess came and said the departure was in 5 minutes. Please take your seats. So I arrived just in time, and as always, 2 minutes before door closure, a passenger with a distorted red face angrily stormed the door. The crowd was outraged. "Excuse me, why are you late?" But he was escorted to his seat. The doors closed, and thus ended the familiar and usual story of the airplane. And what? There was absolutely no need to stress or be so punctual, torturing oneself. But punctual idiots also exist in front of shops or post offices, waiting for a package. A schedule hangs on the post office door, known to everyone. Those who stand in line for their package wait for the opening according to the schedule. But the chaos begins 20 or more minutes earlier. Especially the punctual ones have already organized a wild queue. They stand like 10 soldiers, firmly on 2 legs. Although, according to Anderson, the soldier had only 1 leg, but that's irrelevant here. Holding their phones to their faces, they do not look up, stuck there, unable to survive without them. Every minute, more people arrive, and they already have a little meeting, shouting that the door is closed, 5 minutes left to opening. What a scandal here at the post office. Don't you see we're already here? 1 minute before opening, everyone trembles at the border, starts shaking the door. I stand there, observing this theater. I see all these unfortunate people and think, why are they like this? Then I open the door, and from the threshold I hear barking and grunting. What is that? I was at home and my package wasn't delivered. How dare they? I will complain. Look how many people have already gathered outside. Yes, my sick mother is almost dying at home and I have to wait here at the post office. When will this finally end? You shameless ones, with your dirty faces, and my package was not delivered. Such filth flies from the mouth of every third person. But after 40 minutes, and the crowd of punctual idiots disperses, no one is left in front of the post office waiting for the package. From that time, the more reasonable people arrive. They are annoyed, of course, that the courier didn't bring the package, but they didn't wait 40 minutes among the angry, ultra-punctual crowd. Yes, maybe some waiting is necessary, but not so long. This behavior is based on the punctual idiot syndrome. It turns out that almost 30% of people suffer from it. 1 in 3 is ill. I simply cannot understand why they have no common sense. Just come a little later, say in an hour, and everything would have passed quietly. No waiting. Arrived, took the package, left. But these punctual ones create problems for themselves, and the worst part is, it's always the same people, and they never learn. And next time, the same person will arrive 20 minutes early again and shout the same words.